Galatians 4, I'm going to start reading in verse 11. It says, I am afraid of you, lest I have bestowed upon you labor in vain. Brethren, I beseech you, be as I am, for I am as ye are. Ye have not injured me at all. Ye know how through infirmity of the flesh I preached the gospel unto you at the first, and my temptation, which was in my flesh, ye despised not, nor rejected, but received me as an angel of God, even as Christ Jesus. Where is then the blessedness ye spake of? For I bear you record that if it had been possible, ye would have plucked out your own eyes and would have given them to me, and I am therefore become your enemy, because I tell you the truth. Verse 17 and 18 is where we're going to focus tonight. Verse 17, they zealously affect you, but not well. Yea, they would exclude you, that ye might affect them, but it is good to be zealously affected always in a good thing, and not only when I am present with you. Let's go ahead and have a word of prayer. Lord, I want to thank you for this time we can take tonight, and we can open your word and we can hear from you. Lord, I do pray that you will speak through me tonight, Lord. I pray that you will use this time, Lord. I pray this in your name. Amen. You can go ahead and be seated. I read this chapter while studying for this message, and these verses kind of jumped out at me, 17 and 18 specifically. The idea of being zealously affected. Before we kind of get into the message, I want to look at those two words a little bit. To be zealous about something is to be excited or energetic. Be excited about it. Being excited is a good thing, or at least it can be a good thing. Get excited if you go to a Mariners game. Get excited when you go to those. How boring would it be? I'll look at Brother Roscoe because I know he'd understand this. How boring would it be to go to a Mariners game and no one have excitement? It would be terrible. I mean, even when you're going through bad years, there's excitement in the stadium. There has to be. This last weekend, they had, we didn't go to it this year, we have in years past, but they had the monster trucks at the Tacoma Dome. We've gone in the past. It's a lot of fun. The trucks are, so loud. I don't know, maybe it's a guy thing. The trucks are so loud when they start, it shakes the Tacoma Dome. There's just something neat about that, and the fans are excited, and people are screaming, and it's exciting to watch the trucks race around the tracks, and then they do a freestyle that they're doing all sorts of just one trick after another. Maybe no one else has, but if you've ever been to that, there's excitement in the building. It would be as exciting and as fun as it is to watch them race around the track, and as fun as it is to watch them, flip a however big 2-ton truck over. It would be really boring if everyone just sat there with no excitement. I mean, if everyone just sat there completely emotionless, it wouldn't matter how great the guy in the arena was. I mean, excitement and emotion in that way, and excitement is a good thing. Excitement can cause us to maybe accomplish something that we wouldn't otherwise. Being able to kind of hype up some things sometimes can get us to accomplish things we may not otherwise. Maybe I'm the only one that's ever done this, but I know I have. When there's a job that needs to be done that I really don't want to do, I hype myself up to be able to do it. I will create, if you will, I will create a zeal so that I can get it done. I've said this before. I've been plumbing for 17, 18 years now. I'm claustrophobic. Like, everything in plumbing is tiny spaces, and that's a lot of what we do, and I hate tiny spaces. And then sometimes you go to really old houses, and their tiny spaces are even tinier than other people's tiny spaces. And I've had my share of them that I've got myself stuck in, that I thought, yeah, I can fit in that space, and then get in it and can't get myself back out again. As a guy who is claustrophobic, that's bad. And I can't tell you the number of times that the only way I've gotten myself convinced myself I'm going to go into that tiny little hole so I can get under this building, is by creating a fake zeal, a fake excitement, a fake hype that, okay, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be great, and I'm going to get this done. Zeal can be a good thing. Then this idea of being affected, zealously affected. Affected is to be influenced, to be changed by. You think about it, we are affected by a lot of things, to a lot of varying degrees. Things as simple as the weather affects us. I have plenty of times gotten gotten up and gotten dressed in the morning and stepped out the door and feel how cold it is and immediately turn around and go back inside to get a thicker coat. We make plans for what we're going to do for the day, and one of the major factors that people take into account when they are deciding what are we going to do today is, well, what's the weather look like? It affects our day. My kids love going kayaking. Zach would kayak rain or shine. He wouldn't care if it was 20 degrees outside. He wants to go kayak. As a dad, the weather affects whether or not I'm going to say yes or no to that. Because while he may be willing to go kayak in 20 degrees, I am not. Weather affects us. Things like traffic affects us. It affects what we can get done. It influences what we can get done. Yesterday I was supposed to have something delivered, and I got a call that because of a wreck on I-5 and a 19-mile backup, it was delivered. It affects us. It affects what we can get done. If you're like me, and I know some others who have told me this in the room, but I won't call your name out, but you know who you are. If you're like me, traffic affects your mood. I love to drive. If I'm one, you can ask my family, if I'm going anywhere, I'm pretty much always the one driving, in part because I'm a nervous passenger, but mainly because I really enjoy driving. But I despise traffic. It affects me, and not in a good way. Things like politics, they affect us, they influence us. It doesn't matter if you are a political person or not. I know that some people really love politics, and they love to research things on politics, and they love to spend their time focused on that, and they love to debate politics, and then there are other people that just don't. But the reality of the matter is, whether you enjoy politics or not, they affect you. I'm personally not one who enjoys politics, but it doesn't matter if I enjoy discussing politics or not. Who the president is affects me. It doesn't matter that I don't particularly enjoy discussing politics, but when new laws or new taxes or whatever else get enacted, it affects me. We're affected by things. We're affected by things that we see and things that we hear. I know that it's maybe not a popular opinion, but it's truth. The things that you allow yourself to see and the things that you allow yourself to listen to, they affect you. They influence you. You may not think that it does, and you may think that you can handle it, but the reality of the matter is, the things that we see and the things that we listen to, they influence us. Some in good ways and some in bad, but either way, they're affecting you. Using those examples as sort of, I guess, to set the direction for tonight's message, I want to look at what this passage teaches us and apply it this evening. And I believe I'm going to tie it into our series at the end of the message. I have three things in this passage about being zealously affected that I want us to see. The first, zealously affected, but not well. Verse 17, they zealously affect you, but not well. It's an interesting thought. I think we often try to ignore that idea, that we can be zealously affected. We can be excited and we can be influenced by something or someone, but it not be a good thing. My kids, we're gonna see if this works. Brother Jance is gonna play a piece of audio. If this doesn't work, it's gonna be terrible. Don't do it yet, Brother Jance. I spent hours trying to get this piece of audio, and then I got here and it didn't work, and then Brother Daniel helped me try to work on it more, and I think we actually got it. But the idea of being zealously affected, to be excited and influenced by something, but not for the good. My kids love, this comes from a video, and I just stole the audio from it for tonight, and I'll have Brother Jance play it, and I'll explain it. It really, before he does, it has no bearing on the message at all. It's 12 seconds long. I spent hours to get a 12-second clip for you. It has no bearing on the message at all. I just think it fits well here. So let's see if this works now.
Should we do it? Should we go do the correct thing? Never!
That's it. That was the whole point. All right. Okay. And I know, it serves very little bearing. I told my dad, I'm going to do this. It probably will be a flop. It will mean nothing to most people in here, but it might get your attention for 10 seconds, and so we'll see what this does. The whole point of that video, though, he is zealously affected, excited and influenced, but not for the good. Zealously affected to make a poor decision. I think more often than not, though, those are the things, if we're honest, that we're zealous about, the poor decisions. We can be excited about something, and we can be affected by something, but that does not mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that it's good. We can be zealously affected, but not well, and really by all sorts of things. I'll give some examples. There are people that affect us, but not well. I want to specify this, and I'm going to touch on this more later. Not all people, but there are people who will zealously affect you. They'll get you excited about something, and they will influence you, but not well. They'll get you excited about things, and they maybe will get you, pumped up for something, or they'll get you excited to do something, but not well, or they'll affect you. They'll influence you. The example that they are, or the things that they say, or the influence that they have affect you, but not well. When I was, I forgot, or I didn't realize Brother Jance was going to be running sound tonight. I might not have chose to tell this story if I knew he was the one who could turn my mic on and off. When I was 16, 17 years old, Brother Jance and I went on visitation pretty often. And I would come home and I would talk about what Brother Jance and I had talked about while we were on visitation. And it was pretty often that I would get home from visitation, and the conversation with my parents was not about the visits we had, but the conversation with my parents was my parents saying, I'm glad you and Brother Jance didn't grow up together. Because he would have zealously affected me, but not well. And I'm just picking on Brother Jance. But the reality is the people who you spend your time with have a big effect on who you are. Have you ever noticed that the people that you spend your time with, you start to talk like? If they have some funny little saying that they have, or the way that they say something, and it's not long before you do, you pay attention. You spend 10 minutes with a person from the South, you may have never spent a day in the South in your life, but you're going to pick up their accent and start calling people y'all. Like, it always happens, because the people you're around affect you. The people you spend your time with, you'll start talking like them. You'll start acting like them. The things that they do, you'll start to do, because the people that you spend your time with, they affect you. It really is an important thing, because the people you are around will zealously affect you, but if you choose the wrong people, it will not be well. For right now, I'm going to kind of hit on this in passing, and then I believe I'm going to mention it a little bit more a little later. This is why choosing the right people to spend your time with is such a big deal. Because whoever you spend your time with will zealously affect you. They will influence you. But if they're the wrong ones, it will not be well. People will affect you, but not well. There are activities that affect us, but not well. There are all sorts of directions that I could go with this, but just looking at I think one that is often a struggle. I've used this before. Things like music. Music has a major effect on us. I don't care. I said this at the start. I don't care who you are, and if you say you're not a music person or are a music person, music affects everyone. When I first started working construction, the crew I'm on, my journeyman, my first journeyman, his rule was the very first thing that got unloaded from the work truck every day was the radio. Period. You didn't touch anything else until the radio was on. Along with that rule, whoever was the first one to get the radio out controlled what you listened to that day. So I'm not joking. we would fight over the radio. You would grab the radio and make a sprint for the door, and the other guys were waiting to jump you at the entrances into the house so that they could tackle you and take the radio in, because whoever carried it through the door got control for that day. And they did that because every guy that I worked with had a different style of music that they preferred, which meant, depending on who was the better tackler that day, I listened to whatever, all sorts of stuff, and I quickly learned different music affected me differently. There's some things that the music makes you happy, and some that you just laugh at, and some that for myself made me work fast, some that the entire genre just made me angry all day long because it zealously affects you, but not well. There are decisions that affect us, but not well. The decisions that you make, the choices that we make have an effect on you. They influence you. But not all of them are well. My page just went the wrong way. There we go. If your decisions are to follow after the desires of this world, it's going to affect you. It's going to influence what you do, but not well. If your decisions are to seek what you can attain in a career, it's going to affect you, but not well. If your decisions are to follow after people who are ungodly, hey, it's going to affect you, but not well. If our decisions are to put the things of this world over the things of God, it's going to affect you, it's going to influence you, but not well. The first thing we see in this passage tonight, zealously affected, but not well. Second thing I want to see, zealously affected, and I just have a word this way, for the good. Look at verse 18, but it is good to be zealously affected, always in a good thing. It's good to be zealously affected, always in a good thing. From the first point, a person could take the idea that being zealously affected is only bad. Zealously affected, but not well. If zealously affected is often in poor decisions, and zealously affected is often in following the wrong people and the wrong actions and the wrong decisions. But then Paul says it is good to be zealously affected, always in a good thing. It's good to be zealously affected for good. The key is to be zealously affected, to be excited and influenced for and by the right things. So what are those? Well, using some of the same as we looked at a moment ago, we ought to be zealously affected by people who influence you to live right. Said it earlier, the people you spend your time with, they affect you. It doesn't matter how sure you are of yourself. It doesn't matter how grounded in the faith you are, or how confident you are as a person. The people that you spend your time with affect you. Which is why, I said this a minute ago, which is why it is so important to surround yourself with the right people. I know that, and I understand this, that some of that can't be avoided. Things like a job are necessary to have. You have to pay your bills, and there's going to be people that you work with who do not believe like you believe. There's going to be people who you work with who, frankly, are not a good influence. This is something I learned from my dad. I've tried to kind of instill it in my kids. My dad encouraged Bo and I to get jobs young, and it did some things for us. I believe it taught my brother and I to have a strong work ethic, and it taught us to wake up on time and take responsibility and work hard. But it also taught us, I grew up in a pastor's home when we were homeschooled. It also taught us there are people who don't think just like my parents think. And it allowed me to learn that there are people who don't believe just like my parents believe, while I was still living at home, and my parents could help me process all of that. Because there are way too many who want to kind of, shelter their kids until they're 18, and then when they're 18 want them to move out and get a job, and then can't figure out why they're away from God because they were affected by the people they were around. Being around people is unavoidable, but we need to choose to spend our time with people who will affect us for the good. People who will encourage us to grow spiritually. People who will encourage us to focus on the right things. People who will zealously affect you for the good. As I was studying for this, I'm thinking I don't get to see him often. I've actually, especially lately, talked to him quite often, but I don't get to see him often. He pastors and works up in Tenasket, but a guy who I would probably consider one of my best friends in the ministry. His name is Brother Cody Humberg. I don't know if he knows I consider him that, but I do. He and I talk pretty frequently, and anytime, I don't know, it's pretty often he and I talk. If he has something going on, if I have something going on, we'll talk, we'll pray for each other. Anytime we're at a meeting, he and I will try to get together and spend some time together, and we encourage one another. You know why I choose to spend my time with him? Because when I leave talking with him, I am zealously affected for the good. I leave encouraged, I leave excited, I leave ready to serve God, because the right people will zealously affect you for the good. There are places that affect you for the good. Dare I say, this place. When we come here, when we come to church, if we come with the right heart and the right spirit, and that is a key to this. There are a lot of people who come to church and complain about, well, I came to church for years and God never said anything to me. I was never affected, because they come to church with a hard heart and a spirit that's cold and don't want to hear from God. It's why you'll hear me often pray that that when we come to church, we come prepared to hear from God and prepared to be changed. Because if you're not prepared, it doesn't matter how prepared I am. It doesn't matter how many hours I may spend in message prep. If you come to church unprepared, you will not be affected. But if we come to church prepared to hear from God, prepared to let him work in our lives, this place will affect you for the good. There are decisions that will affect you for the good. I don't want to repeat myself a lot. I think some of that is good. It helps us retain things, but I don't want to repeat myself a lot. But if the wrong decisions affect us for the wrong, I think it makes pretty obvious sense that the right decisions affect us for the right. When we decide to follow after what Christ wants, it affects what we do. When we decide, like Matthew 6:33 says, to seek first the kingdom of God, it will affect the way you live. It will zealously affect you for the good. So far we've seen zealously affected but not well, zealously affected for the good, and then lastly this evening, zealously affected no matter who's around. I'm going to read verse 18 again, but mainly focusing on the last half of it. But it is good to be zealously affected, always in a good thing. And the last half of that, and not only when I am present with you. It is good to be zealously affected for the good, not just when I'm there. That you shouldn't only be zealously affected. You shouldn't only be excited and influenced to do right when I'm there with you. You shouldn't only be excited to serve God when I'm standing next to you. You shouldn't only be excited to do right when I'm there to make sure that you are. But that's how we often are, isn't it? We hear a message and we're, come to the altar and we are excited to do right. I'm gonna change some things. God spoke to me in this message. I'm gonna change some things in my life. And then we leave this place and that zeal fades. Or we are affected by the person that we're spending our time with, and then we leave and we go back to what we were before. Zealously affected for the good, no matter who's around. I have a few thoughts with this point this evening. I want to read this so I get it right. If who you are changes based on who you are around, then it's not really who you are. I'm going to say that again because it sounds confusing and I probably messed it up, but I think this is important for us to catch. If who you are changes based on who you are around, then it's not really who you are. If you act one way around your church friends, your church family, and a different way different way around your work friends, one of the two is fake. If you have to be a different person depending on who you're around, then you need to examine some things in your life. You probably need to examine who you're spending your time with, and you definitely need to examine your relationship with God. The reality is, if your relationship with God is right, then it doesn't matter who's around, which leads into the second thought. Right is right regardless, and wrong is wrong regardless. It's not a sliding scale. It's not, relative to who you're around. Not like, well, when I'm with this group, this is what's right, and when I'm with that group, this, there's a different set of rules. It's not a sliding scale. It's how some people live their life, though, that when I'm with this group of people, here are the acceptable things to say and do. And when I'm with this group of people, this is how I have to act, and this is how I have to talk, and this is how I have to carry myself, and this is how I have to do all of these different things. But when I'm with that group of people, it all changes. When I'm with these people, well, then I don't have to do these things just so I can say what I want, and I can act the way I want, and you'll hear people, use the term, well, I can be me. Different people have to act differently. Right is right regardless, and wrong is wrong regardless. I am far from perfect at this, but it's something I strive for. I want to be the same person no matter where I am or who I'm with. It's something I strive for, because no matter where I am, no matter who I'm around, right is right regardless, and wrong is still wrong. And the last thought with this, no matter who else is around, Christ sees anyways. And when I was studying for this, I thought of Peter when Jesus was at trial, and Jesus had told him he was going to deny him, and we all remember Peter claimed he wouldn't, and then how that all goes down, that he's around the fire, and they say, oh, you were one of Jesus' followers, he denies him, and kind of one right after the other, moment of truth came, and he did deny Jesus. Luke 22, verse 61 and 62, this is right after he denied him. The Lord turned and looked upon Peter. Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he said unto him, before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And Peter went out and wept bitterly. I don't know that Peter was within earshot of Jesus. I don't think when he denied him, he expected that Jesus was going to turn and look at him. I don't think he had processed the idea that, well, Jesus is way over there in the trial. I'm over here by the fire. He doesn't know what's happening. But then Jesus looked at him. Because even when we think, well, there's no one else around, he still sees. If we're honest, it's pretty often that we make the decisions that we make, or we live the way we live, because we think no one sees. We make the decisions we do, or we act the way we act, or we say what we say because we think, well, no one else is seeing this. He still sees. Which ought to cause us to be zealously affected for the good, excitedly influenced for the good, for the cause of Christ, no matter who's around. I'm going to kind of wrap this up this evening. I told you I was going to tie the message into our series, and here's where that will come quickly into play this evening. We will be zealously affected. It's not a question of if you will be influenced by things or not. We will be. We are affected by things every single day. The choice is, will you be zealously affected but not well? Or will you be zealously affected for the good? You're going to be zealously affected in the wrong direction or for the right. And it really comes down to some pretty basic things. It comes down to the people you spend your time with, the places that you go, and the decisions that you make. And then to be zealously affected for the good, no matter who's around. Let's pray. Lord, I pray that you will, Lord, help us to grab a hold of this idea, Lord. We're affected. We are influenced by so many different things, from insignificant little things like the weather to major things that come up in our life along the way. We are influenced by so many things. Some are things that we are zealously affected but not well, and some we are zealously affected for the good. Lord, I pray that you will, Lord, I pray that you will help us to make the decision. I'm going to strive to be zealously affected for the good. I'm going to surround myself with people who are going to affect me the right way. I'm going to make the sort of decisions that are going to affect me the right way. I'm going to spend my time in a place like God's house that affects me in the right way. And then I'm going to strive to be zealously affected for the good, no matter who's around. Whether I'm here, whether I'm at work, at school, whatever. Be zealously affected for the good. I pray this in your name. Amen.
All right, I'll ask you to stand tonight with your heads bowed and your eyes closed. Someone said, 10 years from now, you will be like those you hang with, that you associate with, like the books you read, and I'll add by the music you listen to. Those things will so influence you that you will be the person those things make you 10 years from now. It is very wise for us to look ahead and choose now the influences in our life. We're going to ask, guys are going to begin singing an invitation song, and as they do, we invite you to come spend some time before the Lord as he leads.